just collapse into a crowd of
Yeah, just
400,000
bring.
people. They get there
Wow, what is
too.
that?
A small force
Horses
consisting keep them safe.
to protect
And that
them.
was a goal in which he would
Damn.
stake everything on.
Wow,
If
AINZ.
sacrificing everything. Out of all the crazy things that happened in season 4,
Yeah, there's a lot of like things going on in Overlord season 4.
It wasn't the
Woo, boy.
invasion, the fights, or the subjugation of numerous races, but instead a simple conversation between
Like
two
season
leaders
4, they
vying
just
for the
turned it
kingdom.
up to a
An
notch,
intimate
man.
moment between
It's just
a prince and a king
insane.
in which a rare unspoken friendship was birthed between them. I'm not talking about that fake type of friendship AINZ thinks he has with Jerknick, but instead a real
I don't
one
consider
where
that
AINZ
as
could drop the
friendship.
act and speak freely for once. It was a
True, like the
momentary
only
break from his
part that
usual
AINZ
facade
actually
that
talk
resulted
with
in what I
like
believe
himself
one of
is
the most important
Pandora.
scenes from Overlord. So, while we cover this last bit of cut content from season 4, we'll come to learn exactly what it is AINZ has been fighting for. With AINZ's armies only 3 days away from the capital, Zenek had set off with everyone he could to intercept them. The last army in the entire kingdom,
Yeah, it did not work out that much.
domains, capital citizens, and able-bodied refugees. It was a force that totaled to about 400,000. People who had taken up arms to protect their loved ones from the cruelties of the Sorcerer Kingdom. So, it was after a half-day's march to the nearby plains that the remaining time was spent building basic defenses.
I kinda do read the light novel, but like the
because
anime,
forces were walking the right path to the capital, it was easy to know where exactly to set up so that they could intercept them. Of course, any other enemy would have just gone around them, but considering the nature of the army that he was dealing with, Zenek believed it unlikely for AINZ's forces to divert from the straight path ahead of them, likely as a testament to their dominance and confidence. Yeah, AINZ is very confident, and to be so, the best thing AINZ could do was literally nothing. You see, with an army of undead not needing supplies to sustain themselves, AINZ could simply surround Zenek and wait for his supplies. He just can't just casually sit and do nothing. When you consider just how many supplies are required to feed 400,000 people, it wouldn't take long for whatever stockpile Zenek has to run out, especially when they're already limited to begin with. But even so, AINZ's forces still marched forward without the slightest hesitation. Perhaps because AINZ could easily kill them with a recast of his previous spell, or perhaps because they simply knew that they were stronger. They just overpower, man. The one thing Zenek truly hoped to avoid was a repeat of last time. They easily could have split up their forces to make it harder for AINZ to do that, but with the previous loss of so many high-ranking officers, the number of people capable of commanding large forces just wasn't available. It wasn't something Zenek could afford to do right now. If he did split everyone up into smaller regiments, then that would only render them uncontrollable. No longer would they be able to stand their ground, and his final defensive line would just collapse into a crowd of 400,000 people. At least by standing together, there was a sense of cohesion that granted courage and unity. That was the core thing driving them to stand up against this impossible enemy. Now, it was 2 days after Zenek's arrival that AINZ's army would finally get there. Wow, what is that? Horses? Consisting only of 10,000, in which a large
I really should watch the season 4. Like, I only check out like the first, like the volume of the novel.
Zenek knew he could use this momentary halt to commence a meeting. Not because he wished to have a battle of wits, but instead because he wanted answers. He simply wished to know why AINZ was doing this. For what reason could AINZ possibly have to be so vindictive here? Now, going alone was definitely a risk, but if AINZ had truly wanted to kill them, then he wouldn't have stopped his army in the first place.
Wipe out them already.
Plus, it was a great way to highlight his gallantry. So, when AINZ received word of a royal envoy wishing to speak with him, he returned the favor and went alone as well. It certainly wasn't the safest move to make, but out of respect for the prince and the other potential eyes watching, AINZ knew that this was best.
Wait, what is that thing called? Silver Kingdom? I don't know.
Mind-controlled, then AINZ had come up with a contingency plan to save himself.
Yeah.
Or at least contain himself. He had ordered Aura to use depiction of nature and society and have him sucked into a separate reality so he couldn't teleport out of it. That way he could stay there until something could be done to undo the brainwashing effects. The reason such drastic measures were needed was
to protect, even though like AINZ already strong himself.
His personal world items back in Nazarick, thus rendering him vulnerable to the effects of other world items.
Yeah.
Fortunately for him,
but I mean, world item is also pretty strong in itself.
Since Zenek just wanted to talk. It was actually quite the relief for AINZ, since a battle of wits was something that he wasn't confident in. In fact, when it came to everything aside from military might, AINZ was positive Zenek would be superior to him in it. He was, after all, true royalty.
I mean, like, AINZ is like a normal working guy just
Despite
before.
not knowing what awaited him from this conversation, he was ready to return gestures of respect or dole out insults. It really all depended on what Zanuck did. So, after conjuring 2 chairs and a table to converse at, Zanuck led the conversation with his first question of why. A question that followed with the same response we got in the anime. The kingdom was simply a scapegoat intended to send a message. The core problem with a response like that, though, was that, at best, this was nothing more than a surface-level explanation. It was the reasoning AINZ would give when talking to a diplomat or his subordinates. Not
so
the
essentially just talk
in,
he
was really thinking.
Not inside his heart.
Where that truth does start to come out, though, is after Zanuck follows up with another why. This time wondering why AINZ was being so extreme about it. Like, if AINZ really wanted to send the message of not to defy him, then there were definitely other less hostile
more way, like just over-liberate the entire thing.
This one, Zanuck couldn't help but ask why he was being so vindictive. In the anime, he had used the word close-minded, but I believe vindictive serves better to highlight exactly how Zanuck thinks of him right now. He currently just sees AINZ as this vengeful leader killing everyone out of spite.
No, and it's not like that.
With AINZ's previous answer, Zanuck once again asks for what it is that he's really after. And it's this additional pressing of the same question from
I wonder
that
too.
leads AINZ deep
I honestly don't know what
exactly that.
Don't know what it is.
It's an important contemplative moment that does well to summarize everything Overlord's been about so far. So, in this culminative moment of self-reflection,
maybe it also asks like
past in which his friends
what his character
everything to him. Glorious memories from a life now gone that AINZ truly wished that he could see once more. That may
he wished to relive it in again, maybe, yeah.
Were closing, but the end he believed that to be was actually just the beginning. The NPCs his friends made had come to life, and with each of their actions he could sense the spirit.
Yeah, they have like each personality and also the personality matched with their friends.
But looking back now, that was nothing more than a foolish thought stemming from how absurd everything was.
Yeah.
In a time when nothing really made sense, it was only natural AINZ take every precaution needed to ensure his safety. Once that fear began to fade, though, AINZ's main concern quickly shifted to that of other players. You see, after seeing the amount of signs that indicated their presence, it was extremely likely other players were in the new world as well.
Yeah, there are other players, but
that's what AINZ was hoping was the case.
They are not in here.
Of their influence began to grow into bigger ones, there was a small glimmer of hope that began to spur in him. Perhaps his dear friends may have been transported alongside him. Perhaps
unfortunately,
the people with whom he shared these precious memories were also here. Of course, if being present at the same time the servers ended was a requirement, then the odds his friends were here weren't so likely anymore. It was a thought that led to a feeling of loneliness that intensified every time he'd use his spells or gather information. Like,
yeah,
the more
that's
he found out about his
unfortunate.
Environment, the more he yearned for his friends to be here to experience it.
And also the more he started to realize that they're actually not there.
Small signs of Yggdrasil, the dream of finding his friends slowly began to fade. He did still carry hope that one day he would find them, but that would always be present so long as he didn't know they were gone for sure. It was a testament to just how special they were to him. A hope that some may consider foolish or pathetic, but nonetheless one that represented everything that was once important to him. So, as fate would now have it, this hope of making more memories with the friends of his past was now slowly being replaced by a strong commitment to protect their creation.
Oh yeah,
These
to protect like the guardian.
Strangers were now akin to the children of those most important to them. That being the case, as the last one left from the guild who birthed them, AINZ saw it as his personal duty to keep them safe.
To protect them, damn. Wow,
if sacrificing everything else was the cost of ensuring their safety, then AINZ had no problem letting the rest of the world suffer for it. So long as the NPCs weren't in danger, then literally everyone else didn't matter. AINZ refused to allow a single soul from
I like that kind of character, like,
especially
and not just like mindlessly killing people.
When Shaltir was mind-controlled and turned against him, that's when AINZ knew that he needed to
He don't want the guardian to actually go and like fight with her. He wanted to go to him he wanted to go himself.
About all that and more, that AINZ would finally answer Zanuck with happiness. You see, when he boiled down his motives to the most basic of reasons, the one that made the most sense to him was happiness. That was, after all, the ultimate goal for all creatures. What made this moment so particularly special, though, was the brief respite AINZ had taken from his usual act. He was no longer talking to Zanuck like the ruler of a nation, but instead
talking
to him as
a person in person.
It was a rare moment in which AINZ had spoken freely for once. This, combined with the surprising response AINZ had given, were the core things leading Zenek to his conclusion after. So, when the meeting was done and the two had parted, Zenek felt AINZ to be shockingly human. Sure, his body was skeletal and his
because
like
but the motivation his past form is actually human
that anyone could relate to. I mean, it was rather human to strive for the happiness of those you cared for.
Yeah.
And it's for that reason that Zenek felt AINZ to be just like any other human. So, with that intimate moment wrapping up things between Zenek and AINZ, his return to camp was met with little strategic talk on what could be done next. An assembly that didn't last long since it was quickly interrupted by some feudal lords and their mercenaries. Now, Zenek did expect a rebellion to happen at some point, but he never expected it to happen here. It was an oversight on his part that only left himself to blame. You see, because he couldn't sense where the hearts of his nobles lay, the only thing that meant was that he failed as the king to instill courage and unify them. It was a clear indicator that he wasn't the same eminent figure.
He's not experienced as now. I mean, like, he's young, so
that the people could rally behind. But even so, Zenek committed to following through with the royal position that he made for himself. It may not have been something that he was cut out for in the end, but as a person that lacked any of the traits that his family had, he still did everything he could to make his country better. So, despite not even wanting to be king in the first place, Zenek made the most of what he had and still tried his best to fight for his people. In the end, he was fighting for the exact same thing AINZ was.
To protect his people. Wow, damn.
The extra information about the fate of those feudal lords, but aside from their families being sent to Neonz as well, the rest was exactly as we saw. I would even go so far as to say better. The way the OST sets the tone along with AINZ's dismissive nature were all things that highlighted just how perturbed he was. And that was actually pretty awesome to see animated.
But damn, like we can see like what his motivation, what his goal, and oh boy, I really should like actually go and watch the season 4 because I read up to like the volume in the light novel to like the Sorcerer Kingdom and stuff, and like nearly it ends. I really should go and watch the season 4. Maybe I will be making a reaction to it, so watch out. Thank you for watching. It's been your boy Neonz. Goodbye.